I feel like we're on The View. Hey guys, it's Taylor. Thanks for joining my channel. If this is your first time, welcome. Today I have my lovely best friend, Whitney
Taking it back.
Whitney Looper. This girl is married 5 years in. How I forget that, I don't know. So today we are going to do another Champagne Talks episode. We'll have a little bit of champagne, but not just yet. We'll open that up in a second. But today's topic, if you're interested, keep watching, is going to be about turning 28. We both turned 28 within a week of each other. We're Tauruses.
Taurus.
And we're just gonna talk about life stages and turning 28. Like, that's so surreal to me when I think about that and say it out loud. Like, I feel, I'm not gonna say the O word, but I feel mature.
Mature.
I feel mature.
We're
like
seasoned.
Seasoned.
Yes.
That's a good word.
Yes.
I don't know how to feel about it when I like say it out loud and I admit that I'm turning 28. I mean, I low-key still feel like a kid. So anyways, it's gonna be a good discussion. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about what's next. We're gonna talk about what we wish we were told back in the day in order to maybe do things a little differently. But all in all, we're gonna talk about where we are and how things are going. So if you can relate, I know there's other 91 babies out there. Stay tuned. Let's open this bad boy up.
Let's open this.
I always laugh at my face.
Okay. She should be a professional. She opens lots of champagne bottles.
Don't tell my business like that. We're ready. Cheers.
Cheers to almost 28.
Oh. That's almost 30.
Oh, don't say that. But we did decide for our 30th birthday that we're going to have like a photo shoot, like Death to Our Youth. Just kidding. Just kidding.
That was not part of the plan. Jeez. I feel like we'll still be young and fun no matter how old we get, because we know how to have a good time. And I think that's the secret. That's the key to success. DJ Khaled said so. So, I've known Whitney for over half my life. 16 years, this girl has been just hanging on, and I'm like kicking her off. Just kidding. It's probably vice versa, but she'll never get rid of me. We met in middle school, and we've gone through several life stages together.
Yes.
So,
but I think what's so cool about what this conversation is going to get into is, even though Taylor and I are such good friends and we've been through so many life stages together, we're both in very different places in our lives. You know, I had kids when I was 21, was married and all that. Taylor's been much more sensible about her life.
no.
Yes.
That's not the story. Go watch the relationship post and you'll see why.
But I think it's cool that we've been able to stay friends and help each other through the life stages, even when we weren't in the same life stage at the same time. So
that's true. That's good. Yeah, that's a good point. So be there for your girlfriends, even though you're not exactly going through what they're going through. You can always be a listening ear. I always try to give advice, but I know it's not gonna be, you know, exactly the same as going through it. So just always be a shoulder. Yeah. So let's talk about quarter life crisis. I think they're very real.
I think it's a real thing. Yeah, for sure.
They're beyond real.
Yeah.
I feel like I've had one going on for like 4 years. No, I finally feel like I'm out of it, but like around, I want to say 23 to like 26 or 25 is sort of where I felt like the crisis actually ended, and I like started to grow and mature and like actually evaluate myself and be like, girl, you need to get your shit together, or why I'm actually going through a situation. Did I put that on myself? Is it the way that I'm dating people? Is it the way that I'm making friendships? Is it the way that I'm handling my work relationships? Like, is there something that I was doing that was promoting that? And I definitely think everybody should do that. I mean, we have to go through shit and just evaluate it and learn from it.
Yeah.
So
I agree. And something that, you know, we had kind of mentioned earlier in the day when we were talking is, it's funny because, you know, you can give someone advice however many times, or you can hear someone else give you advice, but the only way to really truly learn, I think, is experiencing things for yourself. You know, you're not gonna learn by just hearing it from someone else.
Right, you're not gonna hear, I feel like you can't learn by hearing advice from someone else all the time, but I also know, like, observing, like, I'm a big observer. So I always look at other people's situation and sort of like try to apply and learn what they learned, or like know the ins and outs of it, and try to make sure I don't make the same mistake. But obviously mistakes happen no matter what way you go. So I definitely think pay attention to your surroundings and who you surround yourself with, and then you should be able to learn some lessons along the way. For sure.
And maybe this might be a good segue into talking about, you know, like when you do make mistakes, how to come back from them. Also how to, like, what am I trying to say? We could talk about like expectations for your life, and when you make mistakes and things don't go necessarily the way that you had planned, or you don't feel like you're in where you want to be in life, or where you saw yourself in life by a certain time.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I know that is a huge factor for me. It's like, I've always been that overthinker and overanalyzer, like, my whole entire life. And I've planned out my whole entire life probably a good 5 or 6 times. So every time I was at a milestone point and I did not meet that goal that I thought would have happened by now, it was like a big trigger for me. Like, spiraling out of control, depression, anxiety, a little bit of all of it. But I think that 27 ended up being like a golden year for both of us, because we sort of, it's like at this age, you sort of get that, what is the point of putting yourself through all of that stress and sadness? And it's like, you are living ahead of, you're being disappointed by things that haven't even happened yet.
Yeah.
And so it's honestly comical when you think about it in that way, because I'm so blessed in all the things that I do have in the present, but I'm so focused on things that haven't happened yet that I'm not realizing how blessed I am, and not taking advantage of those blessings, and probably missing opportunities because of it.
Yeah, so. I think that's really good, and it's hard to be happy with where you are in life when you're so focused on what didn't go right, or, you know,
where you want it to be.
Where you want it to be. Or so my problem is, and I think this is for both of us, we're a lot alike in this area, is we do like to plan and we like to have a vision. And so when we get so stuck in what our vision is, we forget that, you know, where we are right now is gonna, what am I trying to say?
It takes away from the value, and the blessing is all that I can think of it, because honestly, I thought that I would be running a sustainable business by now. I wouldn't be working a 9 to 5. I thought I would be able to have kids, and all my kids by the age of 30, and be working from home, caring for them. Don't have kids, so I'm just like, okay, started late start. Already, we just talked about that. Still working in a 9 to 5, so not self-sustainable at this point. Don't own a house yet. And so I'm just like, all of those things could really take away from the fact that at least I started the business. At least it's still going for 2 years. At least I'm still pursuing these things actively and not giving up. So those things could easily be forgotten. At least I am engaged, about to be married to the love of my life. At least I am planning to have kids with him and buying a house with him in the next year. So it's like, if I never looked at those things, I could be in a totally different situation, and I would be wishing that I was here instead of somewhere else.
And I think a lot of that pressure not only comes from ourselves putting pressure on us, but a lot of it I think comes from society, and like the checklist society gives us as, oh, you need to be married and have kids and buy a house and have your dream job all by the age of 30, when life is not like that. Life is a journey, you know.
And all the real ones know that.
Yes.
So it has to be literally like it has to be a play on it. And I think millennials, especially for us, because we're definitely the go-getter type. We want to make our own dream job. We don't want the outlined white picket fence outline. So I think it's even harder for us when we do see so many people have a great idea and it looks like they're successful overnight, and they aren't. And I feel like I'm a testament of that now, because I feel like even though I might see something now going through it, I know that no business is successful overnight. It takes so much work and late hours, and you know, when we dedicate ourselves to that, I think that's the beauty of the come up. And once we meet the destination, it's going to be even sweeter because we went through that. So
yes. And
just
that's
remembering that.
Another thing is, as millennials, we have so much access to so many other people, and we can see so many other people's experiences through social media.
The highlight reel.
The highlight reel, that's the problem, is we see everybody's when they're on their mountaintop. We don't see anybody when they're in the valleys.
Right.
And so when you're in the valley, it makes you feel less than or alone, or like, oh, I'm the only one. And none of that's true. Everybody has their setbacks. Everybody goes through the valleys. You just have to always remember that you're not alone. Social media is a highlight reel, you know? So you just have to keep pushing through the test. And like she said, it'll make the mountaintop that much sweeter, you know?
Yes. Oh, show.
Yes.
I also think that growing up has like a big part in how we live our adult lives. And so for me and you, we were actually the oldest, and you had your siblings in your household, and I actually had a stepsister and a half brother who didn't live in my household. So we both really led this life just exploring and like not knowing of an example of how really to navigate through. So how do you think that's affected you? Like, do you think it made you more resilient and stronger? I mean, I think in result, we can definitely say that for both of us, but what do you wish somebody would have told you back then?
You know, I always wished that I had like an older sibling to, you know, not only look up to, but be able to like confide in and stuff like that. But I do think that being the oldest and also coming from a broken home, I kind of made, you know, my own vision. I didn't really have anyone that I was looking up to that I wanted to be like or follow after. You know, I feel like it did make me more responsible. I always felt like people were looking up to me. It kind of held myself to a higher standard, which I think was good. But at the same time, I put so much pressure on myself that it was like, you know, it was a good characteristic, but at the same time, it was kind of detrimental to me at different
that's
times.
always like something that I've always tried to like explain, because it is twofold. Like, being a perfectionist or being a planner or being an overanalyzer is always two parts. I mean, half of me is really proud, and I know that I'm proud of the way that I navigated to certain accomplishments. Like, I'm proud that I somehow graduated college. When I look back, I literally
with a double major.
I literally don't know how it happened though, guys. Like, nothing but the favor of God. And it's like, those things that I just listed out were pros in that way, but the cons of it was that I did miss out on like social, I feel like social milestones. Like, I didn't date in middle school or high school. And so in college, I'm like going crazy, you know, like wilding out as best I can, but still like super guarded and not knowing how to be vulnerable. But at the end of the day, again, it led me to something else. So I feel like we're our way for a reason, and there's always, you know, two sides of it, pros and cons. But I definitely think we ended up being more authoritative in like what we want out of life. And like, she came from a divorce, and my dad was never in my household, so we were very strong, independent women at the end of the day. And we saw our moms, you know, go through shit, and it only made us stronger. So, but there's things that we would definitely teach our daughters.
For sure, yeah. And again, I just want to say, you know, both of our stories have similarities, but they're also so different.
Right.
And just because your story is different from someone else's doesn't make it less than, you know, we each learned the lessons the way that we were supposed to learn them. And in the time, through the test, through the valleys, or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't seem like you're ever going to get out. It seems, you know, I just want people to realize that, you know, everybody is individual and unique, and your story is going the way that it's supposed to go. No matter if you feel like, oh, you've made so many mistakes that you've gotten yourself in a certain situation, you know, you're learning and you're growing no matter what. So,
yeah, definitely. Today is always a new day for you to change where you're going and headed. So yeah, while you're in the valley, it always seems like you're there alone. And that's when I feel like you should rely on close friends, like I've done so many times with Whitney, and I hope that she can do with me. And so really, it's just about positioning yourself, you know, that setback into a come up. So I feel like we've definitely, it's easier said than done, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But after you've allowed yourself to acknowledge your feelings or whatever you're going through, it's always about how you can manipulate the situation to work for you.
Yes, I agree with that. And don't ever like belittle your feelings. I feel like I've done that so many times where I'm like, oh, well, what they're going through is so much more than what I'm going through. Like, acknowledge what you feel, acknowledge what you're going through for what it is, and then that's where you start to grow.
Yeah, don't like belittle how you feel, because no matter if it was like you being sensitive, you felt a way for a reason, you know, and you could have misunderstood or misinterpreted, but at the same time, the feeling still happened. And so that's something I'm very guilty of. Is like, I'm always like, why did I bring this to myself? Or was there something that I did or said, or am I not acknowledging something I need to work on? Which I think is a good quality too, because I don't ever want to be the person always pointing the finger. I do want to better myself, but at the same time, I don't want to continue to dismiss the way I felt about something.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Did you ever say what you wish somebody would have told you?
I don't know if I did. You know, that's a hard question because I've learned a lot in my 20s, and I'm like, which one was the most important? You know, as Tauruses, we're both very hard-headed and pretty stubborn. So even if someone would have told me something, I probably wouldn't have listened anyway. But I think, again, there's so many things that I wish people would have told me, but one of those things is that life is not a race. You don't have to be where everyone else is or where you feel like you should be. Just enjoy your life where it is, when it is, you know, how it is, all the things. Just because I always put so much pressure on myself to have certain things done by a certain time, and when it doesn't happen, it sends me reeling. And so I just wish I would have known back when I was 21, 22, 23, all the ages. Even now at 27, almost 28, like, I'm still young. I still have time. I don't have to have all these checklists checked off my box just because I'm 28. Right. You know, life is a journey. It is not a destination. Yes, it's not a destination, it's the journey. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I wish I knew that. And I have a couple things. I wish that I knew to just jump. I feel like I didn't actually, I didn't put the execution behind my plan until I met Samson, honestly, and that was 23, 24. So I wish I had pursued ideas for Allure and for Royal when I actually dreamt them up, which was junior year in freaking college. So I've always been the planner and then also the perfectionist. So I was always afraid to jump and fail and what that would look like and feel like. So I definitely wish somebody would have just told me to go for it. You're not crazy for thinking, you know, you can open an online boutique. You're not crazy for thinking YouTube or social media influencing and blogging could actually make you money. And I think that's more evident than ever now. You know, in this quick 6 to like 8 years that I've been having these thoughts, so many people have become millionaires while I'm sitting here and cool. But again, we all have our own journey. We all have our own timeline. So I believe it can still happen for me. And then I also wish somebody would have just told me to open myself up, not because of like past relationships or situations, but more so just to fully experience those. Like everything that every person that I've dealt with in the past, I still would want to have, like, now looking back, I still would want that to end the way it did. So I'm not saying this in order to say like I wish things didn't end, but I'm saying it just to like, I could have learned a new lesson. I could have learned how to better myself in a relationship. I could have learned how to be a better friend if I had opened myself up to certain people. So instead of being so guarded in a way to protect myself, I wish somebody would have just, you know, said, Taylor, stop being so calculated and just love and just go with it. I definitely know that is a flaw of mine, is the calculations. And I feel like this year is also the point where I just laid all that off on the floor, and I'm like, obviously whatever I'm doing is working. I'm not going to try to manipulate it so much anymore.
And I think that that's when we truly learn the most, and when we grow the most is from our failures and from those times where we are vulnerable. You know, like, I think that we inspire people by our strengths, and that's great, but we connect with people through our weaknesses, and I think that's really important.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a good tagline.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I think that's what I think is where
And don't also be afraid to outgrow people. I feel like that's something huge, because I held on to a lot of toxic relationships and friendships just because I felt like I had to be in that friendship or relationship, family or not. You know, like, if people are not benefiting in your life, then what is their purpose? I mean, honestly, I wish everyone well. I can say that with a full, genuine spirit. Like, I wish no harm and no negativity on anyone. But at the same time, I am responsible for my happiness and my success. So I have to, like, maneuver in a way that only promotes those two things. Yeah. The older you grow and the more you mature, you realize it's something that has to happen. But again, I wish everybody their own success in their own way and their own path, and I have no hate in my heart for no one, but I just can't have it in my atmosphere anymore.
Yeah, and that goes, like she said, for family too.
Anyway, so we're turning 28 this year. Only 2 years from 30.
Oh my gosh, take another drink on that one. It's okay.
Anyway, yeah, it's okay because we're boss bitches,
yeah,
no matter what age. So
that's right.
Someone said I was born in '93 yesterday.
Hey.
A whole 2 years younger. Anyways, so turning 28 this year, we're gonna keep it pretty low key. We have some serious plans cooking, so we're not gonna dump too much money on the B-Day this year. Her birthday is April 29th, mine is April 23rd.
So if you'd like to get gifts, we'll leave information where you can send those later.
And I think this year we're just wanting to keep it chill, low key, like nice dinner maybe, spa day.
Spa day, a little self-care.
Yes. So for sure, but we are also doing this in order to get our plan popping.
Yes, to save some money because we've got something in the works.
So be on the lookout. I think we'll do a separate video on what we're doing, probably when we're actually in the process of doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Oklahoma and DF Dub, stand up and be on the lookout.
Hey. Be on the lookout.
Well, anyways, guys, thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions or comments in regards to what we were speaking of, leave them down below. If you have any suggestions on turning 30, since it's right around the corner for us, leave them down below. I'm sure we're more than willing to know how it feels and what to expect and all that good stuff. Yeah. Again, like and subscribe and share, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Okay.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Cheers.
Hey, do a still. I need to make this the